The courtroom was silent enough to hear the ticking of the ancient clock on the far wall. The air was heavy, not just with humidity from the summer heat outside, but with judgment, suspicion, and the unspoken weight of centuries of injustice. Every seat in the gallery was filled. Some were there for the spectacle, some were there for the headlines, but not one person believed in the girl standing alone before the judge. She looked out of place, too young, too calm, too black. Her name was Amara Johnson, 23 years old, barely 5'5", wearing a cheap navy blazer borrowed from the woman in holding next to her the night before. Her hands gripped the wooden defendant's table like it was the only thing keeping her upright. Her jaw was set, her eyes calm, but watching everything. The judge, Honorable Douglas Whitmore, leaned forward, eyes narrowed behind his rimless glasses. He cleared his throat and said louder than he needed to, "Truth or lies?" There it was, the moment everyone had been waiting for. The courtroom held its breath. Amara looked up at him slowly. Her voice was soft, but carried power, like thunder. "Behind a closed door, is that a real question, Your Honor?" Gasps rippled through the room. Even the court reporter paused typing. Whitmore's face twitched. "She's not represented by counsel?" he asked, shifting his gaze to the bailiff. The clerk spoke up, nervous. "Your Honor, Ms. Johnson waived her right to counsel this morning. She requested to represent herself." "God help us," someone muttered from the prosecution's side. Amara straightened her spine. "No disrespect, Your Honor," she continued, "but I didn't come here today to lie. I came here to fight for my name." The prosecutor, Rebecca Mays, a sharp-dressed blonde with years of wins under her belt, rolled her eyes and stood up. "Your Honor, with all due respect, this is a criminal trial, not a college debate. The defendant is accused of identity fraud, tampering with evidence and obstruction. This isn't a mock trial." "No," Amara said calmly, "but it's been a mockery so far." Murmurs again. The judge pounded his gavel once. "Enough. Ms. Johnson, you are choosing to proceed pro se on your own behalf." "I am." "You understand the charges against you?" "I understand them better than you think." Whitmore studied her for a long second. Something in her didn't fit the mold. She didn't plead, didn't tremble. She wasn't here to survive. She was here to win. He turned to the jury pool forming outside the door. "Let's begin, voir dire." Outside the courtroom, across the street, cameras from Channel 7 News were already rolling. The headline on the ticker tape read, "College dropout faces felony charges, claims she doesn't need a lawyer." In the crowd, no one noticed the woman, standing silently under the awning of a coffee shop, elderly, wrinkled, a cane in one hand and a small worn Bible in the other. She watched the courthouse with eyes like steel. She whispered softly to no one in particular, "Go ahead, baby girl. Let them see what you're made of." Back in the courtroom, jury selection began. Amara took notes furiously, her pen flying across the page as juror after juror stepped up. She watched their hands, their eyes, their hesitations. She asked questions with surprising precision. "Have you or any member of your family ever worked in law enforcement? How do you feel about self-represented defendants? Do you believe someone is more likely to be guilty because they come from a rough neighborhood?" By the time the jury was seated, even the bailiff leaned over and whispered to another court officer, "I think she knows exactly what she's doing." As the session recessed for lunch, Amara sat alone on the cold bench outside the courtroom. She pulled out a notebook full of handwritten legal notes, citations, and case law, all memorized from her 1.5 years at Yale before everything fell apart. People passed by, whispering, "She's gonna get crushed." Crazy to think she even tried. She actually thinks she can win, but Amara didn't flinch. She had been underestimated her whole life. She wasn't scared of losing. She was scared of not being heard. The door opened behind her. A young man with braided hair and a denim jacket leaned against the wall. "You're really doing this, huh?" Amara glanced up. "Yeah, Jaden, I am." He nodded, uneasy. "You know they're gonna come at you hard, right?" "I know." He hesitated. "You shouldn't have covered for me. This is my fault." "No," she said, voice low. "This is bigger than you or me." Back in the courtroom, Judge Whitmore called order again. He looked at Amara one more time, almost with curiosity now. "You ready to proceed with opening statements?" Amara stood. Yes, Your Honor. She stepped in, front of the jury box, hands steady. My name is Amara Johnson. I've been called a lot of things lately, a liar, a fraud, a criminal. But today I'll tell you the truth. And not because I expect you to believe me, but because the truth matters, whether you believe it or not. Dis the Kidai. Jury didn't blink, she continued. By the end of this trial, you won't just know my name, you'll know who's really guilty. Silence. Tension. The camera crews outside were already broadcasting her image across every major news network. America was watching. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? Before Amara Johnson stood in front of a jury, before she faced off against seasoned attorneys and cold-eyed judges, she was just a little girl who knew how to keep. Quiet Southside, Chicago. 2005. She was 5 when her mum first taught her how to count using grocery coupons at the corner store. Money talks, baby, her mama would say, but math listens. Her mother, Danielle, was a nurse assistant, working double shifts at the hospital. Her father, Marcus, was a mechanic, quiet, brilliant and kind. They weren't rich, not even close, but they had rules in their home: books before bedtime, homework before TV, always say yes sir or no ma'am. And above all, speak the truth even if your voice shakes. But the world didn't play fair. One Tuesday afternoon when Amara was just 9, Marcus never came home from work. He'd been arrested on suspicion of armed robbery. Wrong place, wrong time, wrong skin color. The cops said he matched the description. The courts didn't ask many questions, the system moved fast, and the truth didn't stand a chance. Amara remembered watching her mother scream into a pillow that night. The woman who held everything together, shattered. 3 years later, Danielle died of heart failure, brought on by stress, exhaustion, and grief no medication could touch. Amara moved in with her grandmother, Miss Celeste, a fierce church-going woman who kept a pistol in her dresser and a Bible on her kitchen table. You want to be safe in this world, Celeste once told her. Then make your mind sharper than any weapon they point at you. So Amara read. She read like her life depended on it. By the time she hit high school, teachers were calling her the walking constitution. She could quote case law better than most adults. Her essays won awards. She never missed a day, but she also never forgot what it felt like to be invisible. No one believed her when she said her dad was innocent. No one wanted to listen to the girl with braids and clearance sneakers. So she stopped trying to get them to care. She decided she'd make them respect her instead. Yale University, 2020. Amara was one of just 14 black women in her incoming class at Yale Law. At first, it felt like she had made it. She soaked up every lecture, debated like fire in the classroom. Professors praised her, peers feared her. She had that rare kind of brilliance you couldn't ignore, even if you wanted to, but with every semester the pressure grew. She was balancing full-time classes with working 2 campus jobs to send money back to her grandma. Her grandmother's health was declining fast: diabetes, high blood pressure, and chronic loneliness. Phone calls turned into hospital visits. Homework got pushed aside for caregiving. Then, one day, it happened. Amara was in the middle of an oral argument in Professor Landry's trial advocacy class when her phone buzzed non-stop in her bag. 3 missed calls. 1 voicemail, then a text. Call me, it's Grandma, it's bad. She left campus the next morning. She never came back. She spent the next year in Chicago, working nights at a legal clinic, helping tenants fight evictions, assisting abused women file restraining orders, filling out forms for people who couldn't read. No degree, no license, just heart. Then came Jaden. He was the kid from down the block she used to babysit, grew up fast, got into trouble faster. She hadn't seen him in years when he showed up at her clinic door with a black eye and a court summons. Just help me figure this out, Mara, he said, voice trembling. She tried. She read over the files, found holes, raised flags, but before she could file the right paperwork, the cops came knocking, not for Jaden, for her. They claimed she'd used stolen identities to access sealed documents. They said she doctored court files. They said she was impersonating a licensed attorney. She said she was helping people survive. They called it criminal. She called it justice. But no one wanted to hear her side, so she sat in a cell, cold, alone, betrayed. One of the officers laughed as he handed her a phone book-sized stack of charges. "You're smart, huh? Let's see how that works out in court." And now here she was, back in the courtroom. No law degree, no bar license, no fancy defense team. Just grit, grief, and everything she'd ever learned from pain. She didn't need a miracle. She was the miracle. And if the judge, the jury, or the whole damn state thought they could intimidate her into folding, they were about to learn. She didn't come to beg. She came to win. The second day of trial. Amara stood in the hallway outside the courtroom, her back pressed against the cool marble wall. She hadn't slept, not really. The holding cell had no mattress, no pillow, just a slab of concrete and the steady hum of fluorescent lights. But somehow she looked sharper than she did yesterday. She wore the same blazer, same scuffed-up black flats, hair in a tight bun, a pen tucked behind her ear like a sword in its sheath, and behind those tired eyes was a fire that refused to dim. Ms. Johnson, ready for cross. Judge Whitmore's voice snapped her back into the present. She nodded once and rose. Rebecca Mays, the prosecutor, was already standing, perfectly poised, tapping her legal pad with a red pen like a warning drumbeat. Her stilettos clicked across the courtroom floor as she moved toward the witness box. The witness, Officer Daniels, the arresting officer, white, mid-30s, smug, confident. He had testified that Amara accessed sealed records using credentials she didn't have. On the surface, it looked airtight, but Amara knew better. The devil was always in the details. She stepped forward just 2 feet from the jury box. She held her notebook loosely in one hand, a quiet authority in her stride. "Officer Daniels," she said, her tone calm, controlled. "You stated under oath that you saw me logged into the clerk's restricted server at 10:42 p.m. on April 8th, correct?" He nodded, arms folded. "That's correct. I watched her do it." "You watched me?" "Yes." "From where?" "My patrol car." "Through?" "The window of the legal clinic." Amara raised her eyebrows slightly. "Through a brick wall?" she asked. Laughter rippled in the courtroom. Judge Whitmore banged his gavel. "Order." Daniels shifted. "I meant I saw her through the side window, which has blinds. Blinds that, according to maintenance records, were drawn shut during closing hours." Daniels blinked. Amara leaned in just enough to press. "Did you obtain a warrant for that surveillance?" He hesitated. "No." "Did you enter the premises?" "No." "So what you're offering this jury is not direct evidence. It's speculation based on what you think you saw from outside, from your car, at night, with no warrant, through closed blinds?" Daniels clenched his jaw. "No further questions," Amara said, and turned with the kind of grace that made even Whitmore pause. Rebecca Mays approached the bench for a sidebar, clearly rattled. She leaned in. "Your Honor, she's grandstanding. This isn't law school. She's manipulating technicalities." "She's using case law," Whitmore said, dryly, "and doing it better than some third years I've seen." Mays fumed. Back at the defense table, Amara sat down, letting the weight of the moment settle. It was the first time the jury looked at her differently. Not like a criminal, but like someone who might, just might, be telling the truth. But not. Everyone was buying it. Later that afternoon, as she sat eating dry crackers in the hallway, a woman in a navy suit approached. "You're Amara Johnson?" Amara wiped her hands and stood. The woman extended a card. "Jessica Tate. I represent the State Bar of Illinois." "Am I being sued now too?" Amara asked, forcing a tired smile. "Not sued, but your actions are under review." "Which actions? Helping tenants file motions or being poor while doing it?" Jessica didn't laugh. "I've reviewed your case file. You're smart, but you're walking a razor's edge." Amara's eyes hardened. "Tell your friends I've been on that edge since I was 9 years old." That night, Amara sat alone in her cell. The trial transcripts scattered around her like armor. She read her notes by the flickering light that barely reached through the bars. Each cross-examination, each objection, each missed detail, it all mattered, But beneath the strategy was something deeper, the ache of trying to carry your people, your past, and your name. All at once, she pulled out an old picture tucked inside her notebook. Her father smiling in a Yankees cap. Behind it, a post-it note with his last words to her before he was taken, "Don't let them write your story for you." Back in the judge's chambers, Whitmore poured himself a drink. He stared at the photo of his old law school graduating class on the wall. All white, all male, and now this black girl from Chicago was shaking the ground beneath his courtroom like an earthquake. He didn't see coming. He didn't know whether to be impressed or afraid. Tomorrow the prosecution would call a key witness, an IT administrator who claimed Amara bypassed login firewalls using stolen credentials. Amara wasn't worried, because she knew something no one else in the room knew yet. She'd been framed. The courtroom was quieter than usual that morning. The walls felt closer, the air felt colder, and Amara felt like every eye was watching her, not just with curiosity anymore, but suspicion. She wasn't just some girl defending herself. Now she was a threat. "Call your next witness," Judge Whitmore said. Prosecutor Rebecca Mays stood, sharp as ever. "The state calls Ethan Vaughn." A tall, pale man in a grey sweater vest walked to the stand. He looked like every IT guy Amara ever met, slightly awkward, glasses and constantly smelling like coffee and cheap cologne. "Please state your occupation." "I'm a senior systems administrator for the 12th District Court Network." "Were you working the night Ms. Johnson is accused of unauthorized access?" "I was." He explained, using technical terms to sound official, that someone had logged into the court's restricted server using a stolen employee code, credentials tied to a clerk who had reported her badge missing 2 weeks prior. "And that IP address," Mays prompted. "Where was the login traced to?" "The Chicago Legal Aid Center, Terminal 3A, the same terminal Amara used every night." Her stomach dropped for a half-second. Then she caught something. Too clean, too perfect. Cross-examination. Amara walked slowly to the witness stand. "Mr. Vaughn, are you familiar with MAC address spoofing?" He blinked. "Yes." For the jury's sake, what is that? "It's when a device's identity is faked to look like another one. It can be used to disguise a computer's actual location or origin." "Could someone use that to make a remote login look like it came from Terminal 3A at the Legal Aid Center?" He paused. "Yes, in theory." "In theory or in practice?" He looked uncomfortable. "In practice." Amara narrowed her eyes. "Were you ordered to run a MAC address check?" "No." "Did you personally verify physical access logs at the center before tying the login to me?" "I wasn't asked to." She stepped in closer. "So, to be clear, you're testifying under oath before this jury that you tied a login to me based entirely on an IP address, without verifying the physical computer, the timestamp camera footage, or the MAC signature." The silence was thick. Yes, Mays jumped up. "Objection, argumentative." "Overruled," Judge Whitmore said too quickly. Something about the way he said it made Amara glance at him. His lips were tight, eyes distant. He knew something. Back in Holding that night, Amara requested a call, not to her grandmother, not to a friend, to a hacker. Well, digital security consultant, technically. His name was Isaiah Zay Briggs. She knew him from undergrad, back before he dropped out and started making 6 figures fixing cybersecurity leaks, some of which he'd created himself. He picked up after 3 rings. "Damn. Haven't heard your voice since student loans. Were the scariest thing in our lives." "I need you," she said, "no time for warm-up. Someone spoofed a login to pin me. I need to prove it wasn't my machine." "That's felony-level hacking, Mara. You saying someone framed you? Saying I trusted the wrong people." There was a pause on the line. "Send me everything." 2 hours later, a message showed up in her inbox via secure proxy. It was from Zay. No subject line, just one sentence. "Check your friends." Attached was a screenshot from a server ping log. Anomalous activity 1 hour before the supposed login from an external USB drive. The file name? jdmainframe.tgz. Jaden's initials. She stared at the screen, hands frozen. Her pulse thudded in her ears. Could it be him? Had he set her up? Or worse, had someone used him? She wanted to believe it wasn't him. But the doubt was real now. A crack in the foundation. And fault lines, once they start splitting, don't just stop. That night, Jayden showed up at the courthouse. He stood outside the metal detectors, hood up, hands buried deep in his coat pockets, looking guilty, looking scared. Amara approached him slowly, not saying a word at first. Then, "Was it you?" He didn't answer. "Did you give them access? My logins? My files?" He looked up, eyes glassy. "I didn't know what they were going to do with it." "Mara, I thought—" "They said you'd be fine. They said you were already under investigation. I didn't know—" She stepped back. "You gave them the knife, Jayden. You let them put it in my back." "I'm sorry." "Yeah, so am I." She walked away before her hands could shake. Back in her cell, she opened her notebook and scribbled 3 words in red ink. "They set me up," and beneath it, "make them regret it." There's a moment in every fight when something changes. The weight shifts. The crowd goes quiet, and the one who's been getting hit finally starts to hit back. For Amara Johnson, that moment was today. Court came to order at exactly 9 a.m. Judge Whitmore entered slower than usual, coffee in one hand, case folder in the other. But there was something different in the air, like even he couldn't deny it anymore. This case was unraveling. Amara stood ready, same seat, same worn blazer, but her energy different. She had fire behind her eyes now, a sharp stillness, the kind of calm that makes people nervous. "Ms. Johnson, do you have any motions for the court?" She stood. "Yes, Your Honor. Motion to compel forensic analysis of the court server logs, including MAC address traces and any external device activity for the night of April 8th. Mays immediately stood. "Objection, this is a delay tactic." Whitmore cut her off. "She's entitled to request evidence tied to her defense. I'll allow it." Mays blinked. That wasn't how things usually went. Not for her, not in his courtroom. But Whitmore didn't look at her. He looked at Amara, and for the first time he looked like he was really listening. That afternoon, a court-appointed tech team began scanning server logs. It didn't take long. By 2:47 p.m., they had pulled up the activity in question, a USB device. Logged in the name JD mainframe to just the time. 9:37 p.m. Amara's heart beat faster, not from panic, from validation. "Your Honor," she said, "I'd like to call a surprise witness." Whitmore leaned forward. "On what grounds?" "New evidence. This name, JD, is the same used on file access requests tied to the stolen credentials. I believe someone close to me was used to set me up, or helped do it." Mays jumped up. "This is hearsay, and we haven't had time to vet." Whitmore held up a hand. "Call your witness, Ms. Johnson, but be careful. You're walking a tightrope." To the E4, door creaked open. Jayden Carter walked in slowly, hat in hand. He didn't look like a criminal. He looked like a kid who'd made a bad mistake and now had to live with it. Amara didn't look at him like a friend. She looked at him like he was just another piece of the system she had to expose. "State your name." "Jayden Carter." "How do you know me?" "You used to babysit me. Taught me how to read contracts when I was like 12. Laughter from the jury. The judge even smirked. Amara didn't. "Did you give someone access to my terminal at the Legal Aid Center?" He shifted. "Yes." "Why?" "They offered me money. I didn't know they were going to pin it on you. I thought they were just going to pull records and expose something shady. I didn't know they were going to make you the scapegoat." "Who offered you the money?" He hesitated. And then he said it. "It was someone from the state attorney's office." Gasps. Mays exploded. "That's ridiculous. Do you have proof?" Amara asked, eyes locked on Jayden. He nodded. "I kept the bank transfer. It came from a third-party Shell account, but I traced it." He pulled out a printout, laid it on the evidence table. "Routing number, Shell company name, offshore, registered in Beaumont, Texas, same city where a certain Rebecca Mays previously worked." Mays stood, face burning. "This is a smear tactic." Whitmore slammed the gavel. "Enough. We'll adjourn for the day. Ms. Mays, I suggest you prepare a statement." The courtroom cleared slowly, but nobody was talking about Amara's crime anymore. They were whispering about corruption, about retaliation. about why someone wanted a young black woman silenced before she could speak. Outside, reporters swarmed the courthouse steps. Amara, how do you respond to this new witness? Do you believe you were targeted? Are you accusing the state of criminal misconduct? Amara raised a hand. I'm not accusing anyone yet, I'm just putting the pieces together. If they add up to something ugly, that's not on me. That's on them. Back in her cell that night, she got a note slid under the bars. No envelope, no signature, just 5 words. You don't know everything yet. She flipped it over. On the back was a single name, scribbled in pencil, Whitmore. Her stomach turned. Was the judge involved? The next morning, Amara didn't wake up tired. She woke up ready. The note was still clenched in her hand, the name burned into her thoughts. Whitmore, the man who held the gavel. The man who had the power to throw her life away. The man who might not be as neutral as he pretended. She spent the early hours going over every document she had, case files, judge appointment history, even old bar newsletters Zay had hacked for her months ago during a housing case. Nothing obvious jumped out, until she found an op-ed Whitmore had written in law school. Justice must serve order, not disruption. The law does not bend to feelings. It punishes those who challenge the structure. Cold, clinical, exactly what you'd expect from a man who never lived a day outside the lines. Then she dug deeper. With one phone call to Zay, she got what she really needed. What do you know about the judge? Zay's voice came through, low but quick. Born in Kentucky, conservative track record, heavy donor support from a law enforcement union PIAC. But here's where it gets interesting. He was the assistant. There's on a case in 2007, Chicago, a robbery that led to a wrongful conviction. Amara's blood froze. Name of the man convicted? Silence. Then Zay answered. Marcus Johnson. Her father's name hit the air like a brick. Amara dropped the phone. The courtroom didn't just fail her father. Whitmore helped put him away. He wasn't just a judge on her case. He was a ghost from her past, sitting in plain sight. Later that day, Amara stood in front of her small, cracked mirror in holding. The woman staring back at her didn't blink, didn't flinch. She whispered to her own reflection. He buried my father. I'm not letting him bury me. Back in court, Judge Whitmore sat high on the bench, expression unreadable. Amara didn't call a witness today. Instead, she made a declaration. Your Honor, I am submitting a motion to recuse, gasps. Whitmore raised an eyebrow. On what grounds? She didn't hesitate. Conflict of interest. You served as assistant DA on the 2007 case that led to the conviction of Marcus Johnson, my father. That case was overturned, the conviction expunged. But you were part of the prosecution team that destroyed my family. The room went dead quiet. Mays looked like someone had just punched her. The court reporter stopped typing. Even the bailiff leaned forward. Whitmore's jaw tensed. That's a serious accusation. Not an accusation, sir. A fact. She held up the file with the old case number and his name on the motion record. This isn't justice. This is revenge under a different name. Whitmore's eyes flickered for just a second with something unfamiliar. Was it guilt or just fear? He didn't respond immediately. Instead, he called for a recess in the hallway. Amara sat on the bench, alone, until someone slid beside her quietly. Jessica Tate, from the State Bar. Same power suit. But this time she wasn't here to warn. You just made enemies, she said, tone flat. Amara looked at her. You here to scare me? Jessica shook her head. No. I'm here to say, that was the bravest thing I've seen in a courtroom in a long time. Pause. You need protection. What I need is justice. Jessica handed her a folded note. Then you might want to start with this. It's not just Whitmore, it never was. Amara opened it. Inside, scribbled in all caps, was a case number, 22187K, seal motion, and next to it, Mays, Ward, Whitmore, cover-up. The trial wasn't about access logs anymore. It wasn't about hacking or identity theft. This was something bigger, deeper. This was a system protecting itself and punishing anyone who dared question it. And now, Amara wasn't just fighting for her name. She was fighting to expose everything. Chicago, 2:13 a.m. The city never really sleeps. It just dims the lights and whispers. Amara sat in the corner of the holding cell, flipping the folded note Jessica gave her over and over in her hand. 7K. Seal motion maze, Ward, Whitmore, cover upward. That was a new name. But that... case number. It buzzed in her head like electricity. She knew that if she didn't act now, someone would bury it again. Or worse, bury her, Zay's place. Undisclosed location. Zay answered her video call with a Mountain Dew in one hand and 3 laptops open behind him. You always call when I'm mid-snack. You know that. I need you in the vault. His face straightened. You're serious? Jessica gave me a sealed case file number. It links Mays, Whitmore, and someone named Ward. Zay didn't say anything for a beat. Then, give me an hour. If I die, avenge me. He didn't die. Exactly 52 minutes later, he called back. His voice was quiet. Flat different. You're not going to like what I found. Try me. 20187K isn't your average sealed case. It's a classified evidentiary lock file. Internal. Affairs buried it. Court corruption, manipulation of witness statements, and perjury by a sitting assistant DA. Amara's chest tightened. Who was the ADA? Zay turned his laptop. A mugshot flashed on screen. An old booking photo, dated, grainy but clear. District Attorney Lawrence Ward. A man with a clean public record, an aggressive political presence, Mays's former boss, Whitmore's former mentor. They were all tied to him. Back in 2007, Zay explained, they rigged a witness statement in a robbery trial. Swapped the original testimony for one that fit their narrative better. The defendant? Marcus Johnson. Amara's heart dropped. Her father, her family, her whole damn life. Why seal it? She asked. Because someone knew if the truth ever got out, it wouldn't just overturn your dad's case. It'd burn careers. Mays was still coming up. Whitmore was one signature away from a judgeship. Ward was about to run for DA. They needed a win. So they stole one. Zay leaned forward. There's more. The original witness who tried to speak up. He disappeared, never testified again. Amara stared at the screen. Do we have a name? Zay hesitated. Then, Leo Grant. Her eyes widened. Leo Grant was the quiet janitor at the Legal Aid Center. He'd been there for years, always cleaning up after hours, always humming old blues songs, always watching. Suddenly, memories clicked. He was the one who used to offer her food when she stayed late. He was the one who warned her, "You keep digging, you better know what you're up against." She grabbed the jail phone and dialed fast. Leo? There was a pause. Then, "Didn't think you'd call me from jail, girl." "Why didn't you tell me you knew my dad's case?" Another pause. "Because I knew you'd come for blood, and I wasn't sure if that'd save you or destroy you." "I need the truth." Leo sighed. "I gave it once. They twisted it, tried to shut me up. I thought staying silent would keep me safe, but silence, it eats you alive." "Would you testify?" she asked, voice low. "You sure you're ready for what happens if I do?" "Yes." The next day in court, Amara stood with a new name on her witness list, Leo Grant. Judge Whitmore looked up when he read it, and for the first time, he looked scared. That night, back in holding, Amara stared at the ceiling. A small crack ran through the cement above her, probably nothing. But to her it felt like a metaphor. The system wasn't as solid as they thought. It was cracking, and she was going to be the one who brought it down. Monday morning, 10:08 a.m. The courthouse hall was unusually quiet. Too quiet. No media frenzy. No coffee chatter between legal aides. Just the low murmur of boots on polished tile and the faint hum of fluorescent lights. Something was in the air. Amara could feel it in her bones. Leo Grant walked into the courtroom wearing a pressed work shirt and his old blue Cubs cap. He took it off at the threshold, quietly, respectfully, and walked with the steady, unhurried steps of a man who'd cleaned these floors longer than most of the lawyers had been licensed. He didn't look like a key witness, but everyone would. Remember his name by the end of the hour. Amara rose. "Your Honor, the defense calls Leo Grant to the stand." Judge Whitmore looked down at his docket. Mr. Grant has never submitted testimony in this case before. What makes him relevant? Amara's voice was calm, firm, because he's the man who was supposed to testify in 2007, the one the prosecution ignored. Whitmore froze for just a breath, just long enough for Amara to see it. She knew now Leo was sworn in. Hands steady, eyes clear, Amara stepped forward. Mr. Grant, where were you on the night of October 2nd, 2007? Working late janitor hours at the Southside Gas. And go. Same place Marcus Johnson was accused of robbing. Did you see what happened? Yes. What did you see? Leo took a breath. I saw Marcus walk in just before closing. He bought coffee, talked with me a minute, said he was headed home to tuck in his daughter. Amara's throat tightened. He left. About 5 minutes later, 2 men stormed in with masks, robbed the register, hit the clerk in the face with a pistol. I saw the whole thing from the back cooler. Did the police ever ask you to make a statement? They did. And what happened to that statement? Leo paused. I gave it. But when the DA's office filed charges, my name wasn't listed as a witness, and the testimony they read in court wasn't mine. The courtroom gasped. Amara stepped closer. Do you recognize the man who was ADA on that case? Leo looked up, eyes locked on Whitmore. That man, right there, Judge Whitmore. He sat across from me in that interview room. Mays stood up, panic in her voice. Objection. This is a personal attack against the bench. Overruled, Whitmore muttered, but his hands were shaking. Amara continued. Did you try to speak up after the trial? Twice. Both times, someone from the DA's office called me, told me to keep quiet, said if I went public they'd look into my work visa, my taxes, even try to revoke my pension, so I stayed quiet. His voice cracked for the first time. But it's haunted me every day since. She turned to the jury. This is the voice that should have been heard 18 years ago. This is the truth that was buried, along with my father's life. After Leo stepped down, the courtroom buzzed like a shaken beehive. You could feel the shift happening in real time. Mays looked pale. Whitmore kept glancing toward the clerk, then the bailiff, then back at his desk, like the walls were slowly folding in. But it wasn't over, because as court recessed and Amara stepped into the hallway, 2 men in black suits approached her. Not press, not legal staff, too clean, too quiet. Ms. Johnson, a word? She didn't answer. They stepped closer. You're making dangerous people uncomfortable. Amara raised an eyebrow. Good. That night, Leo was attacked outside his building. Someone smashed a bottle over his head and ran. No robbery. No warning. Just a message. Amara sat alone in her cell when she got the call. She gripped the phone so tight her knuckles turned white. Leo survived. Concussion. Stitches. But that was it. 1 more inch, and he would have been dead. They were done. Playing legal games. Now they were trying to scare her silent, but they forgot one thing. Amara Johnson wasn't afraid of the dark anymore. She grew up in it. And now she was going to burn it down. Tuesday, 3:17 a.m., holding cell. Amara was asleep with one arm under her head when the guard tapped the bars. Mail for you. She sat up slowly. He slid a thick manila envelope through the slot. No return. Address? No stamps. Just her name. Printed in bold Sharpie letters. Amara Johnson. Private. Her heartbeat picked up as she peeled it open. Inside, a USB drive, a photo, a note that simply read, "They've been doing this for years. This is your proof. You just have to be brave enough to use it." She froze at the signature. Leo? No, it couldn't be. The handwriting was different. Someone else was helping her now. She slid the USB across the table to the defense technician the next morning before court. Find out what's on this. Quietly. An hour later, he handed it back to her. His face was pale. You've got sealed case files, 27 of them, all tied to Ward's old office, testimonies removed, signatures forged, courtroom audio altered. It's huge, Amara. She exhaled slowly. Then it's time to go nuclear. In court that day, she didn't speak first. Instead, she stood and handed a motion to the clerk. Your Honor, I'm moving to file a judicial misconduct claim, backed by evidence that includes 27 falsified case records, including my father's. This motion requests your immediate recusal and federal review of the current proceedings. Mays lost it. You can't be serious. This is baseless. Amara cut in, voice calm but deadly. I'm holding proof. Certified audio files with metadata. Signed motions bearing Whitmore's name. This isn't baseless. It's buried. And now it's unburied. Judge Whitmore didn't say a word. He just stared at her, like he was finally seeing the storm coming for him. Then he did something no one expected. He stood up. Recess. And he walked out of his own courtroom. By 3:00 p.m., chaos was boiling. In every hallway of the courthouse, federal court observers had been dispatched. The press had gotten wind of leaked files. And Mays, she was suddenly nowhere to be found. That night, Amara received another note, typed, clean. We warned you. You didn't listen. Last chance to walk away. Final warning. Under it, a blurry image. It was her grandmother, leaving church. A camera shot from a parked car. Chills ran up her spine. They weren't just threatening her now, they were threatening home. She called Zay. Can you track the sender of the last message? Already on it. 2 hours later, he messaged back. It came from an encrypted terminal used by the state attorney's cyber division. That means Mays is either directly involved or someone close to her is. Amara's blood boiled. But before she could respond, her public defender knocked on the cell bars. They're offering a deal. She didn't answer. They'll drop the charges, clean record, probation for obstruction, no jail time. But you walk away from the motion, bury the USB, no more claims, no more names. Amara stared at him. Then she leaned in, voice like steel. Tell them they just confirmed I've got them scared. Pause. And tell them I don't do deals with people who threaten my family. Back in her bunk, she clutched the photo of her grandmother. And for the first time in weeks, she cried. Not from fear, from rage. They thought she was a girl they could scare. But what they'd really done was give her a reason to burn their empire. Down Wednesday. 6:02 a.m. Sky still grey. Air still heavy. But Amara wasn't asleep. She was up, sitting on the edge of her bunk, staring at her reflection in the scratched metal mirror. She wasn't a victim anymore, not just a defendant. She was a witness to something bigger, and today she was going to make sure the whole world saw it. At exactly 8:00 a.m., Zay hit send. The leak dropped everywhere. A Google Drive link posted on Reddit, a secure Dropbox link shared with every local news station, a password-protected bundle emailed directly to the Chicago Tribune, ProPublica, and the New York Times Inside. 27 falsified court cases, audio recordings with altered timestamps, internal memos bearing D.A. Lawrence Ward's name, email chains between Mays, Ward, and a then unnamed J.W., now confirmed as Judge Whitmore by 8:45 a.m., Justice for Marcus was trending on Twitter. By 9:12 a.m., protesters had gathered on the courthouse steps, holding up signs, no justice, no bench. Free Amara, the system lied. By 10:20 a.m., local TV anchors were live outside with phrases like unprecedented judicial corruption, State DA's office under federal review. Judge Whitmore expected to steps down. And Amara? She just sat quietly in the holding room, watching it all play out on a tiny TV mounted in the corner. Her public defender stormed in, papers in hand. What the hell did you just do? She looked up at him, completely calm. I told the truth. You just declared war on the city. No, she corrected. The city declared war on me the second they locked my father up for something he didn't do. This is the counterattack. By midday, Whitmore's courtroom was empty. He was gone. Official word? Medical leave, unofficial word? He ran. No one had seen him since 9 a.m., but not everyone ran. Jessica Tate from the state bar showed up to Amara's cell at 4:30 p.m., buzzed in by a federal marshal. She looked different. Now hair tied back, suit darker, face harder. You've got backup now. Amara didn't move. Are you here to protect me or to contain me? Jessica raised an eyebrow. To protect the truth, the kind you just made impossible to ignore. She slid a file onto the table. Federal investigators are opening a grand jury inquiry. Ward and Mays are both on the list. And thanks to what you leaked, so is every judge who touched those 27 cases. Amara stared at her. What happens to me? Jessica paused. That depends. Are you ready to testify on the record? About what? Everything. Your father's case, the cover-up, the threats, the USB, the attacks, your entire journey. Amara didn't blink. Yeah, I'm ready. That night her cell was moved, from county to federal protection. New facility, new guards, new walls. But it didn't feel like a cage anymore, it felt like a stage. Outside, the streets were flooding with chants. People were holding signs with her name. Young girls, grandmothers, law students, ex-cons. Amara for truth. Unseal. The system. The fire she lit wasn't just burning files anymore, it was lighting a movement. But behind closed doors, something darker was still stirring. Somewhere downtown, Lawrence Ward sat in a smoky backroom with two unknown men. He held a tablet with the leaked files and said one sentence. She thinks it's over. She has no idea what's coming. The federal safe house wasn't flashy. No secret underground bunker. No military-grade gates. Just a nondescript brick building in a quiet part of the south side. You'd miss it if you weren't looking for it, which was kind of the point. Amara sat by the window watching the sun pour across the sidewalk. It looked normal, like nothing had changed, but everything had. She was scheduled to testify before a grand jury in 48 hours, and every second between now and then felt like holding a live wire. Jessica Tate was back, seated across from her in an old metal chair with a clipboard in hand and a black coffee in the other. The files you leaked triggered a formal investigation into Ward's 2007 conviction record. We're building a timeline of misconduct. But here's the deal, Amara, she leaned in. Once you testify, there's no safety net. You become public record. That means every enemy you've made so far, they'll see you as a target. Amara didn't blink. They already do. Later. That night, Zay called through the secure line. They tapped my apartment. Amara sat up straight. Who? I don't know, but the feed's gone. Cameras wiped. Someone broke in, didn't take anything. But they left a flash drive on my keyboard. Just one file. What's on it? A pause. A recording. Of me from last week, talking to you. Silence hung between them. Amara's voice dropped to a whisper. You think they're trying to scare you? Nah, Zay said. I think they're telling me they know where I am and who I'm protecting. The next morning, Jessica walked in looking tense. You have a leak. Amara stiffened. What do you mean? There's a copy of the grand jury witness list circulating in the wrong circles. Someone inside either the DA's office or the Marshal Service is feeding intel to Ward's people. Amara swallowed. Hard. Names? Jessica slid a piece of paper across the table. She scanned the list and stopped at one near the bottom. Zayden Baker, digital forensics consultant. Panic shot through her chest. They had Zay's name, and she knew what that meant. Afternoon, she was pacing the room like a caged storm. Jessica finally said, You want me to pull him from the list? Amara stopped cold and let him go unprotected. No, that makes him a bigger target. Then we need to get ahead of this. How? Jessica sighed, then opened a slim folder labeled Project Exonerate, Witness Protection Contingency, Protocol. Amara narrowed her eyes. You think we won't make it to testimony? No, I think they'll try to make sure you don't. That night, Amara stayed awake, watching a silent news stream from her phone. There was another protest downtown, bigger this time. A woman was holding a sign with Amara's face on it, bold letters beneath. Truth isn't a threat, it's a weapon. And then the power flickered, once, twice. The backup generator kicked in, lights turned red, sirens echoed through the floor. Jessica rushed into the room, gun drawn. Move, we've got incoming. What do you mean? Someone breached the back entrance. Armed, not police. Amara's blood ran cold. They'd found her. 2 agents grabbed her and rushed her down a side hall, through an old stairwell and into a basement garage. Jessica. She was already pulling open the back door of a black SUV. They're not playing anymore, she said, breathless, and neither are we. They slammed the door shut and peeled into the alley. Smoke billowed from the building behind them. Someone had set it on fire. 10 minutes later, they were across the city, new safe house, new guards. Zay was already there. He looked tired, shaken, but alive. They sat down across from each other. No jokes this time, no sarcasm, just two people in the middle of a war. Amara leaned forward. You still in, Dill? Zay looked at her with that fire she knew all too well. We came this far, didn't we? She smiled, then said the words she'd been saving. Let's finish what they started. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward even when things get tough? Thursday, 8:39 a.m. Federal Courthouse, Grand Jury Room. The air was thick, not from heat or humidity, but from truth waiting to be spoken out loud, in a room full of people who couldn't unhear it once it was said. Amara sat at the long oak table, flanked by 2 U.S. Marshals and Jessica. Across from her 12 jurors, a stenographer, a federal prosecutor, no cameras, no reporters, just testimony, the kind that could take down judges, or take her down with them. The lead prosecutor stood. State your name for the record. Amara Johnson. Occupation. She paused. Law student, and daughter of Marcus Johnson. There was a shift in the room. Everyone knew who he was now. The questioning started slowly. Timeline, dates, facts, where she was, what she saw, what she uncovered. Then it turned sharper. Ms. Johnson, are you aware that sharing sealed case information is a federal offense? Amara nodded. I'm also aware that falsifying evidence and suppressing witnesses to send an innocent man to prison is worse. Boom. Silence. The prosecutor tilted his head. Are you accusing specific individuals of doing so? Yes. Name. Them? Amara looked each juror in the eye. District Attorney Lawrence Ward, Prosecutor Margaret Mays, and Judge Samuel Whitmore. Gasps. Pens scribbling. The stenographer typed like lightning. Then she did something they didn't expect. She pulled out her phone. I received a video, sent by an unknown source. You'll want to see this. Jessica hit play on the monitor. A shaky video began rolling. Ward, in a private meeting, talking to Mays, talking about cleaning up messes, about ghosting that janitor, about keeping Whitmore's name off the books. The date stamp, 2007, the location, DA's office, private lounge, the recording. Incriminating as hell. The prosecutor looked stunned. One of the jurors whispered, "Is this real?" Jessica answered, calm and clear. Authenticated. Metadata confirmed by federal tech team yesterday. They kept her for another 3 hours. She answered everything, from the threats, to the anonymous letters, to the attack on Leo Grant, to the bribe offer, to the firebombing of her safe house. She didn't flinch, not once. When she finally stepped out of that room, sunlight hit her face like applause. Outside, the press had gathered, despite no official word from inside. They knew something was going down. They always did. A few cameras caught her as she walked down the courthouse steps, flanked by marshals. No smile, no waving, just Amara, head high, eyes forward, walking like a woman who had just told the truth in a room that had forgotten what it sounded like. Later that night, back in the new safe house, Zay tossed her a Coke and collapsed on the couch. You really did it, huh? We did it, he cracked a smile. Grand jury votes come back in 3 days. What happens if they indict? Then we burn the rest of the house down. Jessica came in just before midnight with an update. Whitmore's in the wind. Last known location, private airfield in Michigan. We think he's trying to flee. Amara stood. Let him run. The truth already caught up. But as the night grew quiet, a new message came through Amara's burner phone. No name, no greeting, just a photo. Zay walking alone, leaving a convenience store, and the words, "Next we come for your friends." Amara stared at the screen, took a slow breath, then whispered, "No. Next, I come for you." Friday, 7:14 a.m. Somewhere off I-94, 2 hours outside Chicago. Rain slapped the windshield as the SUV sped down a forgotten service road, surrounded by woods thick with fog and silence. Jessica gripped the wheel, jaw tight. Zay rode shotgun, laptop open, hotspot buzzing. Amara sat, in the back, staring at a blurry satellite photo pulled from a Homeland Security database. One cabin, no neighbors. Rental history traced to a shell company registered to Whitmore's college roommate. Of course, "This is it," Jessica said. "The last breadcrumb. If he's there, we bring him in alive." Amara didn't respond. She wasn't thinking about bringing him in. She was thinking about what she'd say when she finally looked that man in the face. The cabin was small, grey wood, weathered porch, curtains drawn, no car in the drive. But the chimney puffed smoke. Zay checked his feed. "Thermal scanner says one body inside, alone, stationary." Jessica nodded. "Let's move." They circled around the back. Amara stepped up to the door and knocked. Long pause. Then, kriak. The door opened slowly, and there he was. Judge Samuel Whitmore, unshaven, hollow-eyed. A shell of the man who used to sit 10 feet above everyone else in court, swinging a gavel. Like it meant something. He didn't even look surprised. "I figured you'd come," he said. Amara stepped inside. Zay and Jessica flanked the walls, guns holstered, but ready. "We can do this easy," Jessica said. "You come in quietly. You get your hearing." Or we call the marshals and they kick the door in with cuffs. Whitmore just shook his head. "I've got nothing left to fight with." He looked straight at Amara. "But I imagine you didn't come for an arrest." Amara stared. "I came for the truth." They sat at the dusty table. Whitmore poured himself a drink. Didn't offer any to her, she wouldn't have taken it anyway. "Why?" she asked. "Why ruin all those lives?" He didn't answer at first, just looked out the window, rain tapping against the glass like a ticking clock. Then he said, "Because the system was never meant to save people like your father." Amara didn't flinch. "So you rigged it?" He sighed. "It was already rigged. I just helped it along. Ward offered me power, protection. I played my part. I didn't think it would matter." She leaned in. "He mattered. My father mattered." His eyes watered. "Just a little." "I know that now." Zay dropped a file on the table. "Then sign this." Whitmore glanced at it. "A full confession," Jessica spoke up, "sworn statement. Ties you to Ward Mays and the falsified convictions. You sign, we submit it directly to the grand jury." Silence. Then he picked up the pen and signed. As they cuffed him and walked him out, Amara stood on the porch, staring out into the storm. This wasn't closure. This wasn't peace, but it was something. A crack in the system, and she had made it. Later that night, back at the safe house, Amara sat with her father's file in her lap. She whispered to herself, "We're almost there, Dad." And then her phone buzzed. Zay looked over her shoulder at the screen. A message from an unknown number. Nice catch. But Ward's still out there, and he's not running. He's preparing. Attached was a photo. Ward, in a private dining room, sitting with 2 state senators. Amara looked at Zay, then at Jessica. "Looks like we're not done yet." Saturday, 9:43 a.m., downtown Chicago, Federal Safe House. It started with a photo. Ward wasn't hiding anymore. He was recruiting. In the image, a private steakhouse booth, slick suits, smirking faces. Lawrence Ward, ex-DA under Fire State Senator Ellis Monroe, Deep Pockets and Deeper Secrets Councilwoman Dana Grace, known for reform, funded by the same people who funded suppression. This wasn't damage control. This was a counterattack. Jessica paced the room. "He's not afraid, that's the problem." Zay tapped away at his keyboard. "He's building a shield, old political ties, maybe planning to flip the narrative." Tamara was silent. She sat on the edge of the couch, watching a muted news ticker roll across the screen. Judge Whitmore in custody. Grand jury deliberates over widespread legal corruption. State DA Lawrence Ward not yet charged. "He's going to say it's political," she finally muttered. Jessica nodded. "He'll paint you as a pawn. Claim you were manipulated. He's already been feeding media about deep state tactics and disgruntled law students." Amara turned to her. "Then we stop being reactionary. We go offensive." That night, Amara and Zay worked through an encrypted drive. Leo's old archive cracked open again with new eyes, emails, payment trails, campaign donations rerouted through consulting firms. It wasn't just Ward and Whitmore. This was a network, contracts awarded to shady developers, police union donations swapped for dropped charges, even judicial appointment recommendations forged. "This is bigger than we thought," Zay whispered. Amara just nodded. "Which means We're exactly where they're afraid we'd get. Sunday morning she went live. Not through press, not through lawyers. Straight to the people, Instagram Live, 7 minutes, no filter, no script. My name is Amara Johnson. I'm not a politician. I'm not a prosecutor. I'm not perfect. But I am a witness. And I've seen what this system hides. They told me to sit down. I stood up. They told me to stay quiet. I spoke louder. And now they're trying to rewrite the story before it's even finished. So here's the truth. Whitmore confessed. Ward is still protected, but not for long. I have documents, recordings, money trails, and I will not stop until this system is gutted and rebuilt. If you've ever been silenced, overlooked, locked out, or locked up, this fight is yours too. They're afraid now, and they should be. The video hit 4 million views in 12 hours. News. Stations replayed it. TikTok lit up with support videos, but so did the threats. That night a drone buzzed past the safe house. It dropped a package. Inside, a piece of Amara's childhood necklace, broken, and a note. Your story ends when we say it does. She held the charm in her hand. It was from the locket her dad gave her when she was 12. Zay watched her carefully. You okay? Amara stared straight ahead. I'm not scared of endings anymore, because she had already survived the worst one. And this time, she was writing the next chapter herself. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? Monday, 11:57 a.m. Federal Courthouse, Secure Chamber. B-12 jurors. 7 days of testimony. 3 hours of deliberation. That was all it took. The room was packed, but quiet. Every breath felt held. The foreman stood. Read from a sheet of paper that might as well have been a bomb. We, the grand jury, find sufficient evidence to indict former District Attorney Lawrence Ward on the following charges. Conspiracy. To obstruct justice, tampering with legal documents, suborning, perjury, racketeering, and recommend full criminal prosecution in federal court. Boom. There it was. Jessica grabbed Amara's hand under the table, didn't say a word. Just squeezed. Zay's phone buzzed in his jacket. Every news outlet going nuclear. Twitter lit up. Yo, indict Ward. Justice for Marcus. Amara speaks, but Amara. She didn't smile. She didn't exhale. Because she knew better than anyone. Indictment isn't justice. It's just a door, and doors can still be slammed shut. Back at the safe house that night, Zay dropped his phone on the table, pacing. I'm telling you, he's still got people inside. The way they sealed those court documents after the indictment, sketchy. Jessica nodded. The timing's too clean. Public pressure forced their hand, but you better believe the power brokers are regrouping. Amara sipped her tea. Quiet. Thinking. Then her burner phone buzzed. One-word text. Check Leo. Her blood froze. Zay opened the secure case holding Leo Grant's original files. His thumbprint unlocked it. Empty, all of it. Every doc, drive, image, timestamp. Gone, no signs of forced entry, no security alerts. Just wiped. Zay cursed under his breath. Jessica checked the logs. Nothing in the backup either. Someone scrubbed this like a ghost. Amara sat down slowly. It wasn't them, she whispered. It was someone close. Jessica turned to her. You think we're compromised? Amara didn't answer. She was already dialing. The call went to voicemail. Twice. On the third ring, someone finally answered, a familiar voice. Soft, hesitant. Hey, Asmara. It was Taylor, her childhood friend, the one who disappeared after Leo's accident, the one who knew the back-end passwords to the secure drive, the one who helped Zay set up encryption. I didn't know you'd call. Not after everything. Amara's voice was stone. Did you take it? Silence, went Taylor. Don't lie to me. A long exhale. Then, they came to my job. I didn't give it to them, but they offered me a deal. Said if I made it disappear, I'd never have to testify. I panicked. Amara's jaw clenched. You deleted the one thing Leo died protecting. I didn't delete it. I moved it. Off-grid. Air-gapped. Just in case things went south. I swear, Amara, I was trying to buy time. No, she snapped. You were trying to save yourself. Jessica was already tracing the call. Zay hovered behind her. Location pinged. Logan Square, northeast corner, office building, 10 floors. One exit. Amara stood, eyes dark. We're going to get that drive back. As they rushed out the door, the city outside seemed to tremble. News vans were still parked by the courthouse. Protesters lined up again. But this wasn't celebration anymore. This was the eye of the storm. And Amara, she was stepping straight into it. Because silence doesn't protect the truth, it only delays the explosion. Monday, 8:12 p.m. Logan Square, the Greywell building, 10 floors of sterile hallways and flickering fluorescent lights. A single office on the 7th floor still had its lights on. Room 718, that's where Taylor was, or at least where her signal was. Zay slipped his comms into his ear. Building's clean, no guards, no cameras. Which is weird in itself. Jessica adjusted her holster. It's not clean, it's a setup. Amara didn't care. She moved fast through the stairwell, skipping steps, heart like thunder behind her ribs. By the time they reached 718, Amara didn't knock. She kicked. Boom. Door flung. Open. Taylor jumped from her chair, nearly spilling her laptop. Amara, wait! The office was a mess. Half-packed boxes, drive partitions pulled up on 3 different screens. Encryption software mid-run. You're hiding it here? Jessica snapped. Taylor held up her hands. No, I'm restoring it. I told you. I made a copy. Off-grid. It took time to reassemble. Zay looked over her shoulder, fingers already dancing on her keyboard. She's not lying. This isn't deletion. This is recovery. Amara stepped closer. Then why didn't you tell me sooner? Taylor swallowed. Because I was scared, not of them, of you, of what it would mean if I told the truth and still couldn't stop them. Jessica checked the hallway. Empty, for now. We've got 5 minutes max. Let's grab the drive and bounce. Zay hit the final command, recompiled, plug in and pull. Taylor handed Amara a fresh USB. This has everything. Leo's final backup, the financial trails, the case tampering files. And, she hesitated, a recording of your dad. Amara blinked. What? Taylor pulled up the last file on screen. Grainy video. Date stamp, March 18th, 2007. Marcus Johnson, sitting at a desk in a prison interview room. Leo got this off an internal surveillance backup from the prison archives. He never told you, but your dad recorded a message. Zay turned to Amara. Do you want to? But she was already pressing play. The screen flickered. And then, if you're watching this, I guess Leo finally cracked it, huh? I don't know how much you know yet, baby. But whatever it is, you keep going. They framed me because I knew something. I had the paperwork, the records. I gave them to Leo. I told him not to involve you. But if he did, if you're in this now, he paused, looked straight into the camera, then they don't know who they're dealing with. Amara stared at the screen, jaw clenched. Jessica looked away, giving her space. Zay whispered, almost like a prayer. He knew you'd come for this. Amara closed her hand around the USB drive. We're not giving them time to regroup. As they turned to leave, Taylor grabbed her arm. Wait, there's one more thing. She handed Amara a burner phone. It came in while I was restoring the files. A call from a blocked number. They left a voicemail. Amara hesitated, then pressed play. Distorted voice, scrambled but clear enough. If you take this drive to the feds, your friend Zayden doesn't make it home. We're inside now, Amara. Inside your circle, trust no one. The air went cold. Everyone looked at each other. Zay, tense. Jessica, hand on her weapon. Taylor, pale, shaking. And Amara. She just whispered, good. Let them be inside. Let them listen. She held up the USB. Because I'm not hiding anymore. Tuesday, 10:23 p.m. Safe House, Chicago Heights. The room felt smaller tonight. The walls closed in. The weight of what was coming. Amara sat at the table, the USB drive in front of her. The moment she had been building toward since the day she saw her. Father's face behind bars. Everything, every file, every name was on that little drive, the proof, the truth. But the truth was dangerous. Zay leaned against the wall, scrolling through the latest messages from their contacts. All the media outlets are watching now. All of them. Jessica turned to him, her expression grim. It's not just the media, though. The feds are waiting. They want to see if Amara's really going to drop this. or if she's going to get stopped first. Amara looked at the drive one last time. I'm going to drop it. Tonight. No hesitation. Zay moved closer, his eyes scanning the room like he could feel the pressure in the air. You sure you want to go live with this? You could leak it quietly, have them verify it? Amara shook her head. If we wait, they'll bury it. They'll do exactly what they've done for years, pretend it doesn't exist. I'm doing this the only way they'll see it. Amara powered up the laptop. She had set up secure streams through every possible channel. YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, live Facebook. The moment she hit go, the world would be watching. The feed turned green. She paused for a split second, took a breath, then hit the record button. Hello, America. My name is Amara Johnson, and tonight I'm going to show you the truth. Her voice was steady, unshaken. For the last 5 years, my life has been a fight for justice. I was told my father was guilty of a crime he didn't commit. I watched as a corrupt system destroyed his life and used him to hide the truth. But now, the truth is out, and tonight, we're going to make sure it stays out. She gestured to the files on the screen behind her. These are the documents that Lawrence Ward, Judge Whitmore, and the people protecting them tried to erase. But I have it all. I have the recordings, the financial trails, the evidence of conspiracy, and I will not be silenced. Her eyes flashed with fire. Because this is not just about me. This is about every single person who's been crushed by a system that pretends to protect them. The comments flooded the screen. Thousands of viewers, hundreds of thousands. Justice for Marcus. End corruption. Amara the truth. But then, a single ominous message flashed in the chat. It's already too late. You can't stop this now. Amara didn't flinch. She kept speaking, showing file after file, each document corroborating what she had said. Names, numbers, payments, the evidence of a wide-reaching criminal enterprise, everything tied back to Ward Whitmore and the people they had paid off, the money laundered, the lies sold. And just as she was about to show the last of the files, the stream cut. The screen went black. The comments froze. Her heart dropped. What the hell? Zay shouted, trying to troubleshoot. Someone's cutting the signal. But it wasn't just the stream. Amara checked her phone. Gone. Emails? Gone. Her secure line buzzed. A number she didn't recognize. Amara answered, her voice sharp. Who is this? A familiar voice answered. A voice from her past. You should have... Stayed out of this, Amara. Her blood turned cold. It was Ward. He had found a way to reach her directly. I've tried to warn you. The truth was never meant to see the light of day. You're on the edge of something you can't control anymore. Your father's name won't save you. You're already gone. Her hands trembled as she clutched the phone. You think you can stop me? You think this is over? You're wrong. You've been wrong from the start. But the line went dead. The tension in the room skyrocketed. Zay slammed his fist into the wall. Damn it! Jessica was already pacing. They've cut the backup feeds. We've been compromised. Amara's eyes narrowed. No, I'm not backing down. But Zay shook. His head. We can't win this war with just one fight. They're everywhere. We need to regroup. Jessica agreed. They'll try to make you the villain. They'll paint you as a liar. If we don't act fast... Amara took a step forward. We fight. Now. We take the fight to them. But just then the door swung open. A single figure walked in. It was Taylor. It's not enough to fight with your words anymore. They know everything now. It's time for action. And I'm in. She wasn't the only one. Zay stood next to her. We've got nothing left to lose. Jessica nodded. We go all in, or we don't go at all. Amara's gaze hardened. This wasn't just about the truth anymore. It was about survival. Wednesday, 12:05 a.m. Safe House, Chicago Heights. The room was silent, but the air was thick with anticipation. The final battle. They were all aware of it. Amara sat at the center of the table, a map of the city on the INTI screen in front of her, an open drive beside it. Every exit strategy, every contingency, every name on the hit list. She wasn't just fighting for herself anymore. She was fighting for the people who couldn't speak, the people who had been buried under the weight of corruption and lies. The people who would never get a chance to speak the truth because the system didn't care about them. She wasn't going to wait for justice anymore. Zay checked his weapons. It's time to go, Amara. Jessica was already in gear, her bag packed with documents, phones and files. She glanced over her shoulder. We're hitting their operations where it hurts. Cut the head off the snake. Amara nodded. Exactly. She pulled the map up on the screen. We know their operations base. We know Ward's personal stash, the safe houses, the people he trusts. We take out their ability to respond. Then, we make our move. No time for mistakes. Taylor was still by the door, arms crossed, but her eyes were sharp. You sure you want to do this? Once we start, we don't stop. Not until we've burned it all to the ground. Amara didn't look up. She didn't need to. We don't stop, not until they're done. The plan was clear. The team would split into 3 units. Unit 1. Zay and Jessica would infiltrate the last known location of Ward's blackmail documents, hit the warehouses, burn the files, destroy everything that could keep him in power. Unit 2. Taylor and Amara would take the final piece. The financial accounts, the digital backups, the bank records tied to the entire operation. Every lead that would hold up in court. Make sure it went public. Unit 3, secure the evidence and then make sure the police knew who the real criminals were. Let them handle the rest. Let the feds take over once the truth had already set. Fire. They wouldn't stop until everything that Ward and his team had built was gone. The night was quiet, the calm before the storm. But all around them, the city hummed like a coiled spring. The streets were empty, and the lights of the city seemed dimmed, as if even the night itself knew what was coming. Zay gave a final check to his gear, checking his communication device. We're on, no turning back. Amara looked at him. No turning back, just forward. The infiltration Wednesday, 1:30 a.m. Warehouse District, West Side. Zay and Jessica made their move first. The night was their ally. They moved like shadows. Through the alleyways, silent and swift, their target, the hidden warehouse where Ward had stored all the blackmail files, the financial records that could destroy politicians, businessmen, and everyone in between. They reached the back door within minutes. No guards, no cameras. Zay's trained eye saw that the system had been compromised. Someone had been warned. Someone's ahead of us, let's move fast. Jessica handed Zay a small explosive. They'd have less than 5 minutes before the place was in flames. Zay placed it on the file storage unit, then backed up, his finger hovering over the detonator. 3, 2, 1, boom! The entire warehouse erupted in flames. Files, documents, hard drives, all turned to ash in a matter of seconds. That's 1 down. Jessica smirked as they ran out, just as the fire spread further. The digital assault, meanwhile, on the other side of town, Taylor and Amara made their move. Their target? Ward's last known digital vault, a secured building that housed all the encrypted data, everything he'd stored about his illegal activities, the people he controlled and the dirty dealings. All of it was buried there, sealed behind codes and firewalls. Amara and Taylor entered the building unnoticed, their faces covered. They bypassed the main lobby, taking the elevator up to the top floor. The security was minimal. Either they weren't expecting an attack, or they had already decided Amara's fate. They reached the final level. Taylor accessed the main server room, typing in codes faster than anyone could read them. You sure this is everything? Amara asked, scanning the room for cameras. Everything. If I'm wrong, this whole thing falls apart. The lights flickered. The screens came to life, the files streaming across their monitors like an open book. Amara's eyes scanned them. Names. Dates, deals, and the one name that had been missing all this time, her father. Everything Leo had said, everything he had hinted at, was right there in black and white. The entire setup. The reason Ward had gone after Marcus. The reason he'd destroyed everything in his path. Amara's breath hitched. We have it all. But just as she grabbed the final encrypted file, alarms went off. They'd triggered a silent alarm. We have 10 seconds before they're here. Taylor grabbed the drive, stuffing it into her bag. The escape back at the safe house, the team gathered. Amara handed the encrypted data to Zay, who instantly began uploading it to every channel they had. If they couldn't take down Ward right away, they could at least make sure the truth went public. Zay looked at the screen. "It's everywhere now," Jessica nodded. "Now we just wait, the world will do the rest." But as they looked at each other, something shifted. The calm before the storm was over. "They'll come for us," Zay said quietly. "Let them." Amara smiled. "We burn it all down first." Wednesday, 4:15 a.m. Safe House, Chicago Heights. The air was thick with tension. The team had done what they could. They had exposed the lies. The media had exploded. Social media flooded with posts, hashtags and demands for justice. The truth about Ward's criminal empire was out there for everyone to see, but none of that mattered, because now they were the targets. Amara stared at the screen, watching the news cycle spin out of control. Headlines flashed across multiple devices. Breaking. Evidence exposes Judge Whitmore Ward's corruption scheme. Thousands rally for justice. Amara Johnson's bold move for transparency. But there was a darker undercurrent in the news, a subtle shift in tone. A growing narrative that painted Amara as a criminal herself, a vigilante. Someone who had taken matters into her own hands and now had to be stopped before she could do even more damage. "They'll make you the villain," Zay muttered. His voice was low, a shadow of the confidence he once had. "They'll try," Amara replied, her voice steady, despite the weight pressing down on her chest. Taylor slammed the door shut behind her, her face tight. "We're out of time. The feds are moving in. Ward's people have mobilized. We need to get out now." Amara didn't flinch. Her mind was racing, calculating every move, every potential outcome. She wasn't just going to run, she was going to face this head on. She had no choice. There was no turning back. "They'll be coming for us, and when they do, they won't stop until we're gone. So we make sure they don't have the chance." Zay gathered their things quickly, packing up the remaining files. "You're not seriously thinking about running, are you?" Amara turned to face him, her eyes steely. "I'm not running. I'm finishing this." The final showdown Wednesday, 5 a.m., Chicago Heights. The heart of the storm, the team had split. There was no turning back now. Amara and Zay had one last objective: to destroy everything that linked Ward to the powerful people in his circle. They had already burned his warehouses, hacked into his accounts, and exposed everything to the public, but that wasn't enough. Ward had a backup plan, and Amara had to make sure it never saw the light of day. They approached his final stronghold, the underground penthouse hidden beneath the city's financial district, a fortress of technology and secrets. Amara knew it was here where Ward kept his most dangerous files, the final proof of his empire, and the last weapon in his arsenal to take them down. Inside the penthouse, the atmosphere was suffocating. The lights were dim and the security was tight, almost too tight. They weren't alone. "This is it," Zay muttered, glancing around. "Yeah." Amara's fingers brushed the gun holstered. At her side, the cold metal a reminder of how far they had come and how far they were willing to go. They made their way down the long hallway toward the central control room. Every door was locked. Every step brought them closer to the inevitable confrontation, but when they reached the door to the main room, it was already open, and standing there, waiting for them, was Ward himself. His cold smile was the last thing Amara expected. "I've been expecting you, Amara. Did you really think you could destroy everything I've built? You're a fool." Zay stepped forward, his hand near his weapon. "You don't get to make this decision anymore, Ward." But Ward raised a hand, motioning for him to stop. "You're right. It's not about me anymore. It's about you. You've gone too far. This is where it ends." Amara's voice was calm, but her eyes burned with purpose. "No, this is where you end, Ward. You and every single person you've corrupted." Ward's eyes narrowed. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small device. "I don't think so, Amara. You've underestimated me. This is the end game. You're not walking away from this." But before Ward could press the button, the door burst open behind him. Jessica and Taylor had made their move. They stormed into the room, weapons raised. "Amara now!" Jessica shouted. Amara didn't hesitate. She lunged forward, knocking the device from Ward's hand, just as Zay rushed in, pinning Ward against the wall. "It's over," Zay spat, his voice filled with hatred. Amara stood over Ward, the weight of the moment heavy in her chest. You've spent years hiding behind your money, your influence, but you're not untouchable anymore. You're going to face justice now. Ward's smug expression faltered for a moment. His eyes flickered between the team, his mind racing. He was trapped. The evidence was irrefutable. But just before Amara could make her final move, a series of gunshots rang out. Gunfire. Chaos erupted. The room was plunged into darkness as the team scrambled for cover. More figures had entered the room, Ward's last line of defense. It wasn't over yet. Ward had prepared for this moment, and now they had to survive it. "Get down," Taylor shouted, pulling Amara to the ground just as another round of bullets flew overhead. They weren't alone. Ward's people had finally made their move. Wednesday, 6 a.m. Penthouse, underground, Chicago Heights. The air was thick with the smoke of gunpowder. Amara was on her feet, heart pounding, adrenaline coursing through her veins. The team had been caught off guard, but they had the upper hand now. The room was a battlefield, shadows dancing on the walls as the sound of gunfire and shouting echoed from every corner. Ward's men had surrounded them, too many, too fast, but Amara's team had trained for this. Every movement, every shot fired was calculated. This was their final chance. There was no room for mistakes. "Amara!" Zay shouted, ducking behind a pillar as bullets whizzed past. She looked over at him, her expression cold and focused. "We don't stop until he's done." Ward stood behind his men, watching the chaos unfold with a cruel smile. He'd underestimated them, thought that after everything they'd crumble, thought that by pulling the trigger on his last resort, he'd stop them for good. But Amara wasn't going to let him win, not after everything they had sacrificed. "This ends now, Ward," Amara's voice rang out, cutting through the chaos. Ward's eyes flickered with doubt, but his resolve remained. "You think you can take me down? You have no idea what you're up against." "No, Ward," she said, her voice steady and final. "It's you who has no idea what you're up against, and this is where you lose." In the heat of the firefight, the team moved in tandem. Zay and Jessica handled the security detail, taking out the remaining guards with swift precision. Taylor covered them, her sharpshooting skills cutting through the chaos. Each of them knew their role, their place in this battle, and they wouldn't falter now. Amara made her way toward Ward. She wasn't going to wait for him to make the first move. She was taking control. Ward's empire had been built on fear, lies, and manipulation, but now it was crumbling. As she approached, Ward reached into his jacket, pulling out a gun with shaking hands. He raised it, pointing it directly at Amara's chest. "You think you've won? This is over." He pulled the trigger, but Amara was faster. With a swift motion, she knocked the gun from his hands, sending it skidding across the floor. "Not today!" Ward's face twisted with rage. He lunged at her, but before he could reach her, Zay was there, knocking him to the ground. "I'm done running from you," Zay spat, his voice filled with disgust. He'd fought too long for this moment. He wasn't going to let Ward escape again. Amara stood over Ward, her eyes never leaving his. "You've caused so much pain. But it ends here." In the background, the team was securing the room, making sure there were no more surprises. But Ward, bloodied and broken on the floor, wasn't going down without a fight. "You think you can stop me?" He laughed, his voice hoarse. "You'll never make it out of here alive." But Amara shook her head. "You're wrong. We already won. The truth is out. Your empire is finished." The endgame, the next moments unfolded in a blur. The police were on their way. The evidence they had gathered was already being sent to the right hands. Federal agents, the media, the legal system. No more deals, no more corruption. The building was coming down around them, but Amara and her team stayed focused. Their mission wasn't just about taking down Ward. It was about breaking the system that had allowed him to thrive. They had exposed the truth, and now they were going to make sure it couldn't be buried. With Ward in custody and the last of his loyalists subdued, Amara stood in the center of the penthouse, watching the world they had fought to change. The city outside was alive with the buzz of change, the sound of a world finally waking up. "It's over," Jessica said, her voice quiet but filled with finality. Amara nodded. It was over. resolution, and reflection. The streets of Chicago were quiet now. People were still waking up to the news, still processing the chaos of the past few days. But in the wake of it all, Amara felt a strange sense of peace. She'd done it. They'd done it. The next few days were a blur. Media interviews, court appearances, legal battles. But through it all, Amara knew one thing. The world was different. Now. She had changed it. Her team had changed it. And in doing so, they had found something they didn't know they were searching for. Zay clapped her on the back one night after a long day. "You did it, Amara, you really did it." Amara didn't have to answer. Her smile was enough. The journey had been long, filled with pain, loss, betrayal, and moments of pure terror. But it had also been filled with hope. And in the end, hope had won. "So what now?" Taylor asked, leaning against the doorframe as she looked at the team. Amara took a deep breath, her eyes scanning the horizon. The city stretched out before her, and for the first time in a long while it felt like a place she could live in. Not just survive in, but actually build a life. "Now," she smiled. "Now we keep going. We make sure this never happens again." The team exchanged glances, knowing exactly what she meant. They had changed the system, but their work was far from over. There were still people who needed help. There were still battles to fight. But with their unity, their strength, and the lessons they had learned, they were ready for whatever came next. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? Amara didn't hesitate. The truth. And with Thursday they left the safe house behind, stepping out into the new day. The end was just the beginning.